Just 1 week before my wedding, my future stepdaughter destroyed my wedding dress, slashing it to pieces and drenching it in glitter paint. I was left with no choice. Either she wouldn't attend, or there would be no wedding. Alan and I had been together for 3 years and engaged for 1, with our wedding just a week away. From the very beginning, Alan made it clear that he was a package deal, and his daughter, Rose, was his whole world. I embraced that, and we began to spend time together as a family. However, Alan's ex, Carrie, remained a constant presence, co-parenting with Alan. Carrie despised me, and Alan explained that they had been high school sweethearts. Despite their past, Alan told me that Carrie was a terrible partner, inflicting emotional and financial abuse on him. He finally mustered the courage to leave her when he discovered she was having an affair, but the court still awarded Carrie 50/50 custody of Rose, despite the evidence against her. My relationship with Rose was strained from the start. Growing up in a divorced home with remarried parents, I understood her conflicted feelings about her father marrying someone new. But Rose was often arrogant and cruel, hurling cutting remarks and reminding me that I wasn't her mother whenever I tried to set boundaries. Alan did his best to establish ground rules, but Rose flippantly dismissed him, insisting that I wouldn't last. I endured her behavior because I loved Alan. There were moments when Rose was kind and well-behaved. She excelled in school, played in the youth symphony, and took dance classes. But she could be as sweet as she was cruel, and it was like living with 2 different people. We tried everything: therapy, grounding, even involving Carrie, but nothing worked. Carrie dismissed my concerns, telling me to mind my own business. Then, tonight happened. A couple of weeks ago, my wedding dress alterations were finally complete. The dress was special to me, inspired by the one my late grandmother had made after seeing photos of Grace Kelly. Many women in my family had worn that dress or versions of it. Since I'm taller than my grandmother was, I had my dress custom made, and it was a treasure to me. I stored the dress carefully in my closet, tucked away in a garment bag. Though Alan and I didn't live together, we had an arrangement on some days when Alan had custody of Rose. She would hang out with her friend who lived nearby, then come over for dinner, and we would spend time together before Alan took her home. Today was one of those days. Alan was running late from work and called to let me know. Rose arrived as usual, and everything seemed normal. I stepped into the kitchen to finish preparing dinner, leaving Rose alone. I had no idea what was coming. When dinner was ready, I went to get Rose. As I passed my bedroom door, something about the closet door caught my eye. I opened it, and my heart shattered. My wedding dress was in ruins, cut to pieces with scissors and covered in glitter paint. My veil was torn to shreds. It was completely destroyed. I broke down, too upset even to feel anger. Alan arrived to find me sobbing on the floor. He was livid and immediately confronted Rose. She admitted to it with a casual shrug and said, "What's the point? She's just a fat old cow anyway." Alan took her phone away and called Carrie to discuss a punishment. But for me, that was the breaking point. I had endured so much from Rose, trying to be caring and understanding, and this was how I was repaid. My sadness turned to a boiling rage. I seriously considered calling off the wedding and leaving Alan to deal with his daughter. This wasn't an accident, it was deliberate. But I remembered that Rose was part of Alan's life, and I loved him. Still, I wasn't sure if I could keep going. After the incident with my wedding dress, I sat down with Alan and told him how I felt. The anger and hurt from what Rose did were overwhelming, and I couldn't shake them off. I told Alan that I didn't want Rose at our wedding. I couldn't imagine standing there, saying my vows, knowing the person who had tried to sabotage such a special moment was in attendance. But Alan refused. He insisted that Rose was his daughter, and that not having her at the wedding was non-negotiable. I understood that she was his world, but what about me? Was I supposed to endure this? We had a huge argument. Alan insisted that we could work through it, that Rose would eventually come around. But I was done. I couldn't see a future where I continued to tolerate this behavior. I told him I wanted to break up. The look on his face was heartbreaking. He started crying, begging me to reconsider, but I couldn't. I loved him, but I couldn't live like this. Rose's actions were the last straw, and I couldn't enter a marriage where I was constantly disrespected and undermined by my stepdaughter. I blocked both Rose and Carrie on all social media and my phone. I couldn't deal with any more drama from them. Alan kept trying to reach out, still begging me to change my mind, but my decision was final. I heard through mutual friends that Alan had started giving Rose the cold shoulder, and while it pained me to know that, I had to think about my peace of mind. I couldn't live in a marriage where I was expected to endure this kind of behavior. I wish things had turned out differently, but I knew this was what I needed to do for myself. Months passed since the breakup, and life had slowly started to heal. I focused on myself, rediscovering my passions and reconnecting with friends who had faded into the background during my relationship with Alan. I enrolled in a cooking class, something I had always wanted to try, and began volunteering at a local shelter. The time away from the chaos allowed me to find a sense of peace and fulfillment that had been missing for a long time. One day, as I was volunteering at the shelter, I ran into an old college friend, Tom. We had lost touch over the years, but reconnecting with him was a breath of fresh air. Tom had always been kind and supportive, and our conversations were a source of comfort. He had recently moved back to town and was interested in catching up over coffee. Our meeting turned into a regular thing. Tom was a great listener, and his positive attitude was infectious. We began spending more time together, and slowly, I found myself opening up about my past with Alan and Rose. Tom listened without judgment and offered genuine support. As we continued to grow closer, I realized how much I had missed being truly appreciated and valued. Tom showed me what a healthy, supportive relationship could be. He was understanding, respectful, and kind, qualities I had longed for during my relationship with Alan. The more time I spent with Tom, the more I felt ready to move forward. He encouraged me to pursue my dreams and reminded me that I deserved happiness and respect. Our friendship blossomed into something more, and eventually, we started dating. It was different this time. There was no rush, no pressure, just genuine affection and mutual respect. One day, while shopping for groceries, I ran into Alan. He looked different, more haggard and worn down. His face lit up when he saw me, but it quickly faded as he caught sight of Tom beside me. The awkwardness was palpable. Alan approached cautiously, his voice tinged with regret. "I didn't expect to see you here. How have you been?" I smiled politely. "I'm doing well, thank you. I'm just out for some groceries. How about you?" Alan's gaze shifted to Tom, and he hesitated before speaking. "I see you've moved on. I hope you're happy." I nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. I am. Tom has been a wonderful friend and support. And yes, I am happy. Alan's expression softened for a moment. "I'm sorry for everything that happened. I didn't handle things well, and I regret how things turned out." I appreciated his apology, even if it didn't erase the past. "Thank you for saying that. It means a lot to hear it." The next few months were filled with new experiences and growth. My relationship with Tom deepened, and we began discussing the future together. It was refreshing to be in a relationship where communication and respect were the foundation. As for Rose and Carrie, I had no contact with them. I had chosen to focus on my well-being and not dwell on the past. I learned to accept that not every chapter in life would have a happy ending. But that didn't mean I couldn't find joy and fulfillment in new beginnings. My heart still ached occasionally, especially when I thought about the broken dreams and the pain of the past. But I had come to realize that healing was a journey, and I was taking it one step at a time. In the end, I found that true happiness comes from within and from building relationships that nurture and uplift. As I moved forward, I carried with me the lessons learned from the past and embraced the future with hope and optimism. As time passed, Tom and I grew closer, sharing dreams and aspirations. We moved in together, blending our lives in a way that felt natural and right. Tom's support allowed me to explore new opportunities, starting a blog about my cooking adventures, and even considering opening a small cafe. Life seemed to be falling into place, and I felt genuinely content. One evening, while organizing old photos, I stumbled upon some memories from my time with Alan. The nostalgia was bittersweet, but I had moved on. Still, I couldn't help but wonder how Rose and Alan were faring. Weeks later, I received a message from an old mutual friend, Jane, who I hadn't spoken to in years. She invited me to a charity event she was hosting. It was a chance to reconnect and support a good cause, so I decided to attend. Tom was supportive of the idea, knowing how much it meant to me. To my surprise, Alan and Rose were also at the event. It was an awkward but cordial encounter. Alan looked different, more composed and healthier. Rose was with him, looking older and more mature. The event's atmosphere was pleasant, but I couldn't ignore the undercurrent of tension between us. During the event, I found myself standing next to Alan while waiting for the auction to begin. He looked over, and we exchanged polite greetings. The conversation started awkwardly, but soon became more sincere. "I see you're doing well," Alan said, his tone softer than before. I nodded. "Yes, things are going great. Tom and I are planning to open a cafe together. It's been a rewarding experience." Alan's eyes softened with a mix of pride and regret. "I'm glad to hear that. I've been working on myself too. I've been seeing a therapist and trying to understand where things went wrong." I appreciated his honesty. "That's good to hear. It's important to reflect and grow from past experiences." Rose approached hesitantly. "Hi, Marie," she said quietly. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how things were between us." I was taken aback by her apology. "Thank you, Rose. I hope you're doing well." She nodded, and the conversation ended on a positive note. As we parted ways, I couldn't help but feel a sense of closure. It was clear that both Alan and Rose had been through their own journeys of growth and reflection. With the charity event behind us, Tom and I continued to build our life together. We enjoyed exploring new places, sharing new experiences, and supporting each other's dreams. The cafe idea was coming to fruition, and it brought me immense joy and fulfillment. I also found myself reflecting on the lessons learned from my past relationship with Alan. I had gained strength and resilience, and I was grateful for the support I had received from friends, especially Tom. The challenges had taught me the importance of self-worth and the value of nurturing relationships based on respect and understanding. As Tom and I prepared for a new chapter, including planning a small, intimate wedding for just the two of us, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The future was full of possibilities, and I was excited to embrace them. One day, I received a message from Carrie, Alan's ex. She reached out to apologize for the past and to express her hopes for a better future for Rose and her family. It was a surprise, but I appreciated the gesture. It was clear that she, too, had been on a path of reflection and growth. We exchanged a few messages, and while I didn't seek to rekindle any past relationships, it was comforting to know that there was some resolution. I wished her well and continued to focus on my life with Tom. Looking back, I saw how every experience, no matter how painful, had contributed to my growth. I had learned to value myself, to seek happiness, and to build relationships based on mutual respect. My journey had been tumultuous, but it led me to a place where I could truly appreciate the beauty of new beginnings. Life had a way of teaching lessons in unexpected ways, and as I continued to move forward with Tom, I embraced the future with optimism and hope. The past was a chapter that shaped me, but it no longer defined me. Instead, it was the experiences and relationships of the present that guided me toward a brighter, more fulfilling future.